Hello there, we're going to cover a very basic video today which is really to do with hand position. Now the thing with hand position is that as obvious as it sounds that it's a really crucial thing that we have to develop as pianists. One of the things that people do, largely because they start with the C major scale, is they get used to not navigating around the black notes, which means that they'll take, say, C major scale and they'll sort of hang around here on the white keys. And what happens is their hands don't really progress past this sort of stage. So the first thing that you want to do when you're working out hand position is to think about where the black keys are and how you're going to shape your hand in order to adjust them. And we're going to use a very simple triad exercise really to help us to work this one out. So just to give you an example of what people tend to do when they start out, they'll play a C major chord, which is fair enough. But then if you take another chord such as E major, which introduces a black note, if you say to them, go to that chord, their hand will move up, which is fair enough, but it won't actually do a logical move forward. It'll just stay sort of in this sort of range here, as you can see. So sort of along this same line, which is fine for C major or anything that's based around white notes. But obviously if we go to E major, what it means that they then have to do is make this awkward stretch to the G sharp. I'm not the best person to exemplify the awkwardness of that because I've got quite long fingers, so I can manage it. But what you can do instead, obviously, and it's obvious when you're told, obviously, is you can just move your hand forward a bit. So just as you see, right, that's fair enough. You want to be a bit further back because you don't need these black keys to get in the way. But I'm going to go to the E major, and if you notice that the hand just goes slightly forward, it's not exaggerated, it just comes slightly back for the C, slightly forward to the E. So there's a very slight movement there. And the exercise that we can do is basically chromatic triad chords. So I've done blogs and videos in the past of how to find any triad chord, really. But chromatic basically means you're going up by semitone or down by semitone. So we're going to use ascending chromatics. Even if you can only sort of work out 4 or 5, that's fine. But if you can do all 12 in one scale, brilliant. C major is an obvious place to start for most people. So start with the C major. And then basically work through the next, well, all 12 if you can, but the next few chords. So C would go to C sharp major, to D major, to D sharp major, to E major. Let's take it for there. And just watch the very subtle differences. So obviously with C sharp major, I've got to introduce 2 black notes, and I've got to push my hand forward. I'm slightly curving the fingers a little bit more because I need more accuracy to hit the black notes. Remember, there's less surface area to hit now, plus they're taller, so obviously you can slip off them a little bit easier. And then come back and just work through them like that. Start slowly at first, obviously, and just feel how they feel, really, and just work through like that. Now, there are some chords, for example, I'm coming up to B major now. You'll notice, you may have noticed then, that there was a very slight adjustment, not just to my hand position, but also to the shape of the hand. And that's very important as well. So for example, here's your A sharp, if we're describing them as sharps. A sharp, okay, which is a black note at the bottom. So what happens is it sort of gets slightly cocked to the side here. And then obviously to go to the B major, we've got 2 black notes at the top, meaning it's sort of, if I exaggerate the shape, we've sort of got that and then that. And that's the sort of shape that we're aiming for, but obviously in a very comfortable way. So you're looking to get a very gentle distinction between the 2 shapes. What people tend to do is they tend to work their way through them, and they tend to make very minor adjustments like that. And then if they don't curve the fingers as well, then it gets a very clumsy kind of uncomfortable. I'm actually managing it, I'm fluking that to be honest, but it's very uncomfortable and it's very, probably because I've done these chords for so long, but certainly when you're a beginner, that's, you know, that can really be difficult. So work through them, and obviously do it descending as well, and obviously do it with both hands, you know, focus on moving through, getting a little bit of movement, and think about fluidity as well. That's the other key, just with music in general. You don't want to be doing this. You don't want to have this exaggerated kind of effect. You want it to be very flowing ghost chord, if you like. Some of the notes sounded missing. But yeah, work through it and make sure that you've got this lovely, lovely fluid feel. Just to go back to an old trick that some people like to start out with at the very beginning, and some people like to do to sort of prove their point. It's the old coin trick. So put the coin on the back of your hand and just see if that can help as well. So I've got a £1 coin here, but you can use any coin and you just work through it exactly the same. And theoretically, and this goes for most any piece of music or exercise, theoretically, you should be able to play without that coin falling off. If the coin falls off, then you're being too dramatic, you've been too drastic with your movement. So work on keeping that coin there. You shouldn't really even feel it sliding around much, but coins are going to do what coins are going to do. So, you know, obviously, if you feel it sliding around drastically, you'll know. If it's a little bit, then you're probably fine. But yeah, work through it and just get used to different hand positions, because it also helps you when you come to play in these respective key signatures. So for example, if you know that E major feels like that, then when you come to play an E major scale or a piece of music in E major, then you're automatically sort of familiar with how the hand positions sort of go, compared with C major, which is very much on the edge, more on the edge of the keys, because you're obviously avoiding those black notes. So yeah, play around with them, and you know, it will help to sort of really think about what you're doing in terms of hand position and hand shape.